Well, I'm going to start by first saying that I pull this window apart. This is out of a house that was built in 1922. And before we get started, I used this sander here to clean the paint off of this one piece. You can see how well it does. It does a great job. So if you have these old windows and you want to clean them up, well, that's what you want to use, because normally before I started, this is what it looked like. Pretty rough. And the same with this one over here. You can see how rough this one is. But I start off with 50 grit, and then once I get it cleaned up, get all the paint off of it, then of course if this is in the window, if this is in a house and not just laying out like this, if this is in a house, and what you want to do is you want to go from a 40 or 50 down to 100, and you just want to smooth up all the work that you've done. In other words, you get rid of all these swirl scratches that's going to show up. But in any case, you use a good heavy primer, then the scratches won't show up. Now if you're going to stain it, that's a different story. Then you're going to have to find somebody that's going to take your time to do this right. Okay, now to begin what we're doing, I've got all the pieces. This is what they would do in a factory back in 1922. They didn't have computers, but they had guys with computer heads. They were smart enough to read a tape. They would cut these things. Everything is laid out on paperwork. And what they would do is they would cut this stuff to length. And then they had jigs that would come in and set up for this angle cut. This is probably about a 10-degree cut. We're going to get our square and find out exactly what kind of a cut it is. But they normally go from around 10 to 15 degrees, depending on the manufacturer that was doing them at the time. There were so many window companies back then. They would come and they would go. Okay. Boy, this was an early model. This is roughly looks like about 7 or 8 degrees. Normally they weren't that small because they wanted to get the water off that windowsill. But I know in later years, and we'll get into that in a minute, the ones I've dealt with for so many years, 10 degrees, because the house would shift and push the windowsill up on the outside, to push it up to where if you didn't have any kind of a degree at all, then the water's just going to sit there on your sill and rot it out. But in any case, okay, the guys had their measurements, they had their jigs, and all this stuff would come out with this, what we're going to call the parting stop groove. This is what separates the outside window from the inside window. In other words, this would be the side where the lower window would go. This would be the side of where the upper window would go, and that would be the one that would sit up there at the top. And the lower window would be the one that would sit down here on the sill itself. So this would all come out with this groove in it, and then they'd set up, and then they'd make their bottom angle cut the right dimension from the top groove cut. So what they would do is they would measure from this point to the longest point, set up their saw, which was already set up, and then they'd make that distance. They were all they had all their distances for the type of windows that they wanted, and everything built back then was built by window sizes. It didn't go by jambs. Then they'd come in and they had their certain distance from the top for the rope pulleys. Well, the rope pulleys, of course, these don't have the teeth in them like the newer ones do. So these would just drop in after they got them cut. These were done by drills. Drill the holes, drop them in, and then what they do, like this one is finished, they drive a nail through them both to keep them from coming out. But anyway, back to this. Once they got their pulleys in, once they got them set, same thing. This stuff is run, miles and miles of it. There again, they know exactly how much to cut, because see, they have a 3/8 dado there. So they would have this dimension from here to the other side. They would know the distance from this side inside to this side inside. They just add 3/4 of an inch. So if this was 36 inches, then they would just add 36 3/4. So when it went together, this would fit down in there. You can see that it's got that 3/8 of an inch, and once that drops down in there, that lines up, and then of course you got the 3/8 up here too when the other one goes in, and it's the same. Now they do the same on the bottom. This is the top. This piece here is the bottom sill. Okay, see how this has got that 5°, 7° cut on it. This is the front that sticks out. You were to stick this in here, it would go flush in the back. Be flush in the back, but see, it would be overhung in the front, because you have your blind stop that's going to come down and run into this, which is right here. See, here's your blind stop right here. This goes on the outside. It comes down and runs in to your sill. Okay, and also your blind stop has been notched back. They do this by hand. They just notch that back and then just take a hammer and just knock that little edge out, because they have to get their sub sill in there. See, these are usually cut 1 1/4, 1 3/8 thick. This would have their, see how this is straight, it needs to be cut back at that 5° angle, 7° angle, excuse me. And then of course it would overhang, which I'll show you that in a few minutes. Well, this would be your sub sill, and this was put on in the field.